Hi, everybody. I'm Debbie Belaus with Feel Good Qigong. Today's my second presentation that I've been putting together. Each week I've been highlighting a different aspect of Qigong, just to give you a broader picture of what Qigong is all about, especially if this is something new for you. It's kind of like, pieces to a puzzle. You keep finding a piece that fits into a certain other piece, and then before you know it, you've got this big picture of something. So that's how I look at information, is gathering these different pieces, and after a while it'll make sense about what this picture is telling us. Today I want to focus on the idea of connecting with nature through the seasons. Now, Qigong, just to kind of recap real quick what Qigong is, and if my other video, the first one was Qigong and aging, and that'll give you a really good idea of what traditional Chinese medicine is, which is Qigong, and versus modern medicine, and the differences in these two approaches and how they relate to each other. So Qigong is based on traditional Chinese medicine. Qigong means energy cultivation, and it's about understanding how energy moves through form. Energy wants to move and energy needs to move. And when energy is blocked in the body or in the mind or in the spirit, it creates stagnation. And stagnation creates illness. And it mucks up the mind. And so the whole idea is, if we can get the flow moving, then it creates health, and the body can naturally heal itself by understanding these principles. The other aspect of Qigong, it's all about yin and yang. It's all about creating balance, and we have to create balance in every aspect of ourselves, which is the mind, the body, and the spirit. Also, Qigong is also about coexisting with nature, understanding how nature is so intricate, and understanding how it affects us on many different levels as well. And that's, I feel, the beauty of studying Qigong, because it is this connection that I think we've lost over the years, about how nature is so important to observe and to contemplate. And with observation, with contemplation, then there's the meditation comes. It's the understanding, taking some time to understand how this all fits together. Qigong, I feel, is a personalized form of healthcare. Once you understand the principle of it, you can use this information to personalize it to fit your needs. And that's what I really love about it, that there's these other ways of self-care. And it's so important to self-care, especially as we're aging, because the body just doesn't respond as quickly as it did when it was younger. And this is the time to really, if you're at the age of 15 over, this is a really great time to understand many different ways of self-care. And Qigong is could be a big pathway to follow. I know it has been for me. So we'll get started with, I'm going to put up a chart that I think will help us visually see these different ideas of going a little bit deeper in the Qigong tradition. So if you could just give me a moment so I can do that. So as you can see, this chart, it's a wheel. And if you look a little bit closer, we're going to start from the center of this wheel and work our way up. So if you can see here where it says wood, wood, fire, earth, and metal, and water, these are the 5 elements. And when we understand the 5 elements, it will correspond with everything. The 5 elements is everything. Everything is in the 5 elements. In everything there are 5 elements. So they took that information, the sages from thousands of years ago took this information, worked with these 5 elements, and noticed that they are in everything. So we're going to start here, and like I said, then we'll work our way out with this main concept, because this main concept will explain so many other things for us. So if we look at the 5 elemental chart or theory, there will be it generates and creates the next element in a creative sequence. So for instance, if you're looking at water, which is the blue circle, and you see it, there's an arrow going to the wood, which creates water, creates wood. How does that do that? So for example, rain nourishes a tree. And then if you look at wood, it generates fire. The example of that would be burning wood generates fire. If you look at fire generates earth, example, ash is created from the fire. And then the earth generates the metal, which is the metal is mined from the earth. And then the metal generates water. Water condenses on metal. So with that idea, there also is, with each element is also a different season that corresponds to each element. There's also organs that correspond to each element. And with each organ, there's also an emotionality piece to each organ. And there's also a season to each organ. So not to confuse you too much, but I'm just going to run through each. We'll start with each season. So the water season is the winter season. The water element, I'm sorry, is the winter season. The wood element is the spring season. The fire element, which is early summer, because they, in traditional Chinese medicine, they have 5 seasons. They broke up the summer to early and late. Fire is early summer season. The element is fire. And then the earth is late summer. The element is earth, and the season is late summer. Then we go to the element of metal, which is the fall season. And then we go from the fall to the water, which is the winter season. So as you can see, the water creates the wood, the water creates the fire creates the earth creates the metal creates the water. Same with seasons. We have winter falls into spring falls into early summer falls into late summer falls into the fall, and then the fall goes into the winter, and then we have that cycle again. So what does this tell us? Again, the 5 elements are the 5 seasons. One generates the next. And then we can look at, there's also organs associated with each element and each season. So we'll look at each organ for each element, and we will look at first the water element, which is winter. And the organs, there's 2 organs for each element, and in the winter we have the kidneys and we have the bladder. And then we'll go into the spring, the wood element, and the organs for this season, this element is liver and gallbladder. We'll then go to the fire element, which is early summer. The organ is the heart and small intestines. We'll go now to the earth element, which is late summer. The organ is spleen and stomach. Then we'll go into the metal element, which is the fall, and the organs for that is lungs and large intestines. And then we go into the winter, which is the water element, and the organs are kidneys and bladder. So before I had talked to you about everything is based on yin and yang, and it's similar, it also relates to our organs. We have yin organs, we have yang organs. The yin organs are the solid organs. Their function is to produce, transform, regulate, and store fundamental substances such as blood, body fluids, and qi, which is energy. And the yin organs are the liver, the heart, the spleen, the lungs, and the kidneys. Then we have the yang organs, which are empty cavities. The yin organs are solid cavities, solid organs. The yang is the empty cavities, and their function is responsible for digesting food and transmitting nutrients. Those organs are the gallbladder, small intestines, the stomach, large intestines, and the bladder. So why do I mention this? The organs, I had said there's 2 organs to each element, to each season, and we need a yin organ and a yang organ. We need the solid organ, we need the empty cavity organ. They work together. That's the yin and the yang of each organ. So just to go over this again, we have, if you start with the water again, which is the winter season, the water element, and the 2 organs are kidneys and bladder. The kidneys are the yin organ, the yang organ is the bladder. We go then into the wood element, which is the spring season. The liver is the yin organ, the yang is the gallbladder. We then go into fire, which is the early summer season. The heart is the organ, which is the yin organ. The yang organ is the small intestines. And then we will go to the earth element, late summer, which is the spleen, yin organ, stomach, yang organ. Then we go into the metal season, metal element. The season is fall. We have lungs is the yin organ, and the yang is the large intestines. Then we go into the water element, which is the winter season. The organ is kidney, which is yin organ. The yang organ is bladder. So each, the yin and the yangs, we're always working with the yin and the yang in every element, in every season, in every organ. So for instance, if we're looking, let's go into we are now in fire season, which is, it's the fire element. It is the season of early summer. That's where we're at right now for the season. And you'll see again, the heart and the small intestines are stimulated during this season. The heart, again, is the yin organ. The small intestines is the yang organ. So they work together. The yin and the yang organs work together. There's emotionality piece also to each element, to each season. So for this season of fire, the early summer, we have the love and hate is the opposite. Remember, the yin and the yang are showing up again. Happiness, the negatives, impatience. So just to kind of give you an example of following the seasons and what they can tell us. So I know we're in the fire season. I know it's going to, my heart and my small intestines are the 2 main organs that are going to affect me during this season. Since it's a fire element, fire is very, it's fiery, it's hot. And to go back to the yin and the yang, if we have too much fire, that is going to create a lot of inflammation in the heart and the small intestines. It's going to be too much inflammation if I am too excited in a more of a negative way. So in other words, what's happening right now, man-made law, is a lot happening right now. We have the COVID virus, we have civil unrest. It's a very fiery, seasonally fiery time to begin with. And now we've got all this other stuff on top of it. And not only do we have COVID, which is somewhat part of nature and nature kind of mishap, we also have man-made fire with the civil unrest. So we've got so much negative fire happening right now in the season. And I have felt very hot-headed. I felt my heart was pounding out of my chest from all kinds of emotionality, of anger and hate sometimes. And if I don't watch that, I can have a heart attack, or you can have a stroke, or you can have hypertension, high blood pressure. That's the negative side to an emotionality. And I know this because I'm studying this tradition. I know I need to quiet down my fire. I need to quiet down my negativity so I can stay balanced in this moment in time. This moment in time of this summer, early summer season, this moment in time of this man-made happening as well, man-made law as well. So this is how we can use this information to personalize our own self-care for our health care. I know that this season also has a healing sound, because sounds have vibration to it as well. And if you notice under healing sound, it's ha. So I know if I want to quiet down again my heart, I could use that vibration of ha, and it brings me right down. The other beauty of this season, there's also seasonal movements. So we move differently for each season. I know in early summer, the weather's getting warmer. I can start, this affects different parts of her body for movement. Because the body's warmer, I could start moving my small muscles a little bit more dynamic. As the weather starts to warm up, as we're going into late summer, which is here, which is the earth element, I know that that's going to affect my large muscle. It's going to get warmer out. My seasonal movement can be more dynamic. I could use a little bit more dynamic movement for this time of year because it's warmer out. And then as we start to come into the fall season, starting to get a little cooler, I could still keep up a more dynamic seasonal movement. But I know I'm going to start coming into the winter movements, which is colder out. And in this winter season, I'm going to use more, if I follow nature, everything's going into hibernation. It's a time to go within. Everything is going within. So I'm, as a body, as a human being, I'm also going to go within. And my practice is going to be more about my bones are going to be affected through the cold. So we do a lot of tapping for that kind of time of year. The movements are going to be about strengthening my bones more. And I'm also going to probably learn my meditation practice or do more of a meditation practice this time of year because it's all about the hibernation. So what I'm trying to show you is a pattern between learning these elements, these 5 elements, and how they impact everything in our life. It impacts our physical body through working and understanding the different organs and how they're affected with each other, how each organ is also can be strengthened by another organ from another season to strengthen a particular organ that might be compromised. I don't want to get too much into that yet because I don't want to get too confusing. So that is the information that we can use to put into our puzzle. That piece can fit into our puzzle that we know now. There's 5 main elements that controls everything. It's in everything that we do. In our physical world, in our mental world, our emotionality, and also in the natural world as well. I'm going to be talking about also each season represents a different age group, and I'm going to be talking about that next week, about how age affects how we feel, how we'll move, how we can understand ourselves as far as, organs. In other words, I'm 65. I am not going to I need to probably not do a zealous kind of workout for my age. And also, it'll also inform me about what time of year of my life I'm in and what that brings. And that's what we're going to talk about next week. And also how that relates to retirement years. There's a correlation between our age group, what's happening, and what path maybe we can follow that will support what we have and what we have damaged over the years, and how we can do that. So some example of taking this information, and I'm going to stop this share and come back here. So how can we, I had said that Qigong is a way of personalizing a self-care routine. So how can we do that? So I'm going to take today's, again, so I'm going to look at my age. I'm 65. I'm going to look at the season I'm in right now, which is early summer to coming into late summer shortly. I know that the element that is for early summer is fire. I know that the fire element is related to the two organs of the heart and small intestine, the heart being the yin, the small intestines being the yang, and understanding that relationship between these two. And then I also know what's a good seasonal movement to do at this time of year. Also, I'm going to look at what's happening in my personal body and my personal emotionality. So I'm feeling heated emotionally because of what is happening in the man-made world, what is happening around us right now as a collective, especially. And again, not to stress this again, we're in high fire season. We're also in a high emotional fire time as well. More so than ever before. This is monumental happenings right now. We can't deny that. We can't deny the fact that we're collectively involved in this, and that we can't deny that we need to pay attention to how it's affecting us. Again, in our body, how it's affecting us also emotionally and spiritually. So knowing all that information, I'm going to create a routine for myself where I'm feeling unstable as well. In my routine, I'm going to do some more grounding movements. And I'm also going to do movements that quiet down my heart. And I'm going to try to, in my movements, get the heat out of the upper body and into my lower body, because bringing that heat down into the lower body creates more stability. We're more grounded in the earth. And then getting the heat out of my upper body, then I want to start to draw up some coolness. I want to draw up some water also. So the movements that I will do, the routine that I would make for myself, prescribe for myself, I take that all into consideration, and then I create a routine. I will show you that routine in another video. So that, again, you can create from the information that of Qigong, you can create your own prescription for your healthcare. And it's based on, that the spoke of the wheels. It's that main part of the wheel are the 5 elements. And from understanding those 5 elements, spokes out into 5 seasons. And then we can work from, our way in, out, as we start piecing this all together. So I hope I didn't overwhelm you with all this information. It makes sense as you apply it season to season. It makes sense instead of trying to take it all in. And that's, again, one of the wonderful things about Qigong is we take it season to season. And if you've done enough seasons, then you start really noticing the patterns, and the more knowledge you'll get. So it takes a full, I think, year to get a kind of a good handle on the principle of all these wonderful ancient traditions. Thank you so much, and I wish you a really wonderful day. Namaste.